has to do with what kind of commitment you have as a leader. And if you're committed to it, then you'll set specific expectations for how you expect that meeting to go. If there's any hint that you are not 100% supportive of the whole process of this important communication that you have as a group, then your team will know it, and it will have a ripple effect. The agenda, to Danny's point, is where it has to start. So people walking into that meeting know exactly what's going to be discussed and what they're responsible for. So it starts on time, it ends on time, and in the middle, it's relative to the specific content that you're providing. There's no distractions that normally occur when you're communicating, especially in this day and age. And then you just add the situation we're in now, which is when you're, having meetings remotely, there's a lot more opportunities for distractions. So there has to be a real clear expectation of what you want out of people from this meeting. Otherwise, people will drift off when it's not relevant maybe to them or whatever. So I think most important is your commitment and your support. And if you set clear expectations, people will fall in line and you'll get a lot accomplished.
Yeah, that's really important. And one of the things, and we've all seen this, and anybody watching this video has certainly seen this, is you're having that guy, and I'll say it's that guy, it could be that girl, that tends to try to take over a meeting, and that becomes the distraction because they're driving you off into a ditch. You're getting off your agenda, getting off the main points, the main topics of what you're trying to accomplish. Do you have any suggestions on how they can wrangle this person in and make sure that this big distraction not only keeps this meeting on time, but future meetings on time?
Yeah, and part of that is creating the protocols for how to run a meeting. And part of those protocols are you have a time that you're allotted to provide the information that's relevant. If you're responding to somebody else's input, then it just becomes up to the moderator, the leader, which is generally you, to ensure that an individual like that is reeled in. That's one step. If there's some difficulty understanding what those protocols are, then I'm pulling somebody aside after the meeting or before the meeting or at some point and kind of reiterating what that is and why it's important. As opposed to calling somebody out in the middle of a meeting isn't really the way to do it. Because that'll, humiliate them or whatever. So it makes much more sense to have the protocols, discuss them, everybody understands them, and when they're not followed, pulling somebody aside separately and reviewing them.
So having some ground rules, but if somebody's trying to take you off track during a meeting, this is a little bit of a role play here, but you say, hey, listen, I know that's important. We probably all need to talk about it. Let's get it on a future agenda, but we only have an hour today. Let's get back onto the agenda we have and get these topics knocked out, and we'll get that. We'll parking lot that and get to it later. Is that kind of the way they need to professionally and respectfully keep things on time?
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. For me personally, when I ran meetings, there was never any doubt as to exactly how they were going to go. Because when it did get sidetracked, I very respectfully put it back on track immediately. So it's just like any other type of human behavior and learning is when there's repetition and consistency, people tend to respond to that and they learn what the expectations are. If you're doing it one day, you're letting everybody, have a free-for-all, and the next week you're like, come on, man, let's pull it together. That generally doesn't work as well as you being very consistent on what those rules and protocols are. And so when someone starts going off on a tangent and you reel them back in, that's standard. And my experience has been is that there's a lot less tangents when they understand